I calmly put my husband and his green tea mistress in their place. On my wedding day, my husband, Julian's best friend, a girl he'd known since childhood, brazenly ripped my magnificent wedding dress right in front of countless guests. The sudden, rude, and unexpected act left me completely stunned. She even shamelessly stuck out her tongue, casually explaining it was just an accidental slip of the hand. What was even more infuriating was Julian's attitude. Instead of defending me, he sided with her, carelessly saying, "You're both girls, what's the big deal? Why are you overreacting?" But it didn't stop there. A few hours later, she brazenly posted private photos of that horrifying moment on social media, turning me into the target of public criticism and moral condemnation. And once again, Julian casually ignored my pain, making excuses for her. She didn't mean it. She's just a girl. Why are you the only one so petty and calculating? It all happened too fast, too suddenly. Before I could even collect myself, someone burst into the room and, without a moment's hesitation, violently tore at my wedding dress. Everything unfolded in a few breathtaking seconds. If I hadn't reacted in time, hugging my chest tightly, my entire body would have been exposed to everyone. In that moment, my mind went completely blank, buzzing as if a bell was ringing. My whole body went cold, an extreme sense of shame and awkwardness, and a terrifying fear consumed all my senses. My friends and relatives around me were also stunned speechless. Countless astonished, curious, and even judgmental gazes fell upon me. I curled up helplessly, trying to shield myself from everyone's eyes. Fortunately, Fiona, a close friend of mine, was the quickest to react. She rushed over to shield me, then turned back and shouted, "Everyone out! Photographers too, turn off your cameras now." A bewildered crowd looked at each other awkwardly before gradually dispersing. Julian, my fiancé, struggled to push his way into the room. Seeing the empty bridal suite, he chuckled innocently and asked, "Why is no one here? My beautiful wife, and no one wants to play games to challenge the groom?" He completely failed to notice my utterly panicked and terrified expression. Fiona helped me pull up my zipper, then glared to the side and loudly admonished, "Julian, she did it. She dared to rip Serene's wedding dress." I still hadn't fully recovered, my mind still reeling. The girl's somewhat casual and mocking voice echoed in my ear. "Oh, I was just helping you find your shoes. Who knew I'd accidentally snag your wife's wedding dress a little? She's probably just sulking, not paying attention to you." I immediately looked up, glaring at the woman who had just torn my wedding dress. She had a striking short haircut, arched willow leaf eyebrows, and a small tattoo on her neck. Strangely, she was wearing a groomsman's suit. Julian paused slightly, standing in the middle of the room to explain. "This is Valerie, my childhood best friend. I've told you about her before, there must be some misunderstanding." I knew Julian had a very close best friend, but due to the pandemic, that person was still abroad. When they heard about our wedding, they insisted on coming back to be a groomsman. But Julian had never told me Valerie was a girl. "What kind of introduction is that? Not enough flair, do it again?" Valerie said, putting an arm around his shoulder. The two of them immediately started giggling and chatting as if nothing had happened. I stood there frozen, watching the scene. A surge of injustice and humiliation welled up inside me. How could they still be laughing in this situation? Fiona angrily threw the wedding shoes, her face cold as she said, "You exposed Serene, and you dare to laugh as if nothing happened. Are you crazy?" "Oh, I thought everyone would play pranks at the wedding, so I just got a head start to be safe," Valerie said, completely unfazed, shrugging nonchalantly. "Besides, what's the big deal? I know my limits." But before the procession, I had made it clear to everyone that I absolutely did not want any excessive pranks at the wedding. At most, just a few small, lighthearted games for entertainment. My parents fully supported that idea and even, fearing we might be embarrassed, had proactively taken the elders to the hotel first. Fiona saw my humiliation and was furious, wanting to get justice for me. Julian looked a little embarrassed and quickly tried to smooth things over. All right, I apologize, is that enough?" Valerie looked impatient, sighing irritably. Girls really do hold grudges over trivial matters. It was as if her tearing my wedding dress and embarrassing me in front of everyone was completely not her fault. My anger flared. I pulled Julian's arm, signaling, "Today is my wedding day, I don't want to make a big scene. She's your friend, so you should handle it." But Julian completely failed to notice my anger and disappointment. He just vaguely patted my head. "Be good, it's a small matter, don't be angry anymore. You're both just girls, what's the loss if you joke around a little? And Fiona, I'm not even angry at my own wife, why are you being so petty?" My eyes widened. I couldn't believe what I had just heard from Julian. I'm the victim here. By what right does he brush off all the hurt and indignation I'm suffering? What a sensible boy, your parents didn't raise you for nothing. Valerie linked arms with Julian, leaning her head intimately on his shoulder. The two continued to joke and laugh happily as if I didn't even exist. I was so angry my heart felt like it would burst into flames. Could this wedding even continue? But the wedding car's horn outside began to blare. My parents also called repeatedly, checking in, worried something bad had happened to me. Fiona advised me to think carefully about everything, suggesting Julian's best friend might intentionally be trying to ruin the wedding. I suppressed the chaotic emotions within me and nodded. I wanted to get into the wedding car, to have some private time to think things through. Unexpectedly, as soon as I stepped into the wedding car, Valerie started her antics again. She poked her head through the car window, smiling provocatively. "I've never driven a Rolls-Royce before. As good friends, you should support me a little, right? Give me a chance to bless you too." Upon hearing Valerie, Julian seemed to agree to cooperate. He beamed with joy and nodded repeatedly. But as soon as all three of us got into the car to begin the wedding procession, Valerie began to recount endless, deeply rooted memories between her and Julian. From their naive middle school years until graduating college, as if deliberately stirring up buried emotions within me. She narrated in such detail that she even brought up the first time she had her period, how Julian struggled to find sanitary pads for her, running across 3 streets and even losing a shoe. Then came the daring games, like the mouth-to-mouth paper passing game at a lively birthday party. She even recalled sneaking out of school to watch movies in the suburbs together, pitching a tent to sleep overnight, and didn't forget to add the detail. "You hogged the blanket in the middle of the night, so the next morning I had a runny nose and had to write a self-criticism report." Julian just casually scolded her, but his tone held no trace of resentment. Instead, it was tinged with a hint of nostalgia. Valerie burst into laughter, making the entire car seem to shake with her every guffaw. It felt as if only the two of them were in the car, and I was just an invisible, superfluous presence. My hands unconsciously clenched. For the first time in my life, I saw Julian talk so much. My relationship with him began through an adult's introduction. After half a year of getting to know each other, we felt quite compatible, so we decided to get married. Julian was originally a quiet, reserved person. In daily conversations, I was always the one who actively initiated and led the discussion. I had never imagined he could talk so much, and with another woman, no less. I silently turned my face to look out the window, trying to stay calm. I knew perfectly well that Valerie was deliberately provoking me, but was Julian truly innocent in all this? I was about to speak, to seriously discuss this matter with Julian, when suddenly a piercing screech of brakes ripped through the tense atmosphere. My entire body was thrown forward, slamming hard against the seatback. Everything before my eyes went dark, my ears rang, and a terrible, sharp pain spread throughout my head. It felt as if someone was trying to tear it apart. It seemed to be a car accident. Julian. After a long while, I finally managed to open my eyes. Instinctively, I looked towards Julian. He had frantically opened the car door and rushed straight to the driver's seat. "Valerie, are you okay?" My hand, just reaching out for help, froze in midair. Right before my eyes, Julian was anxiously embracing Valerie, repeatedly calling her name in a panicked voice. His face was as if she were the most important treasure in his life. My whole body went cold. How ironic and bitter. His gaze never once stopped at the backseat, where his future wife was. The woman he had promised to cherish and care for his entire life. The wedding car had crashed into a flower bed by the roadside. The front of the car was smashed, and the paint was almost entirely scratched off. Fortunately, no one was severely, life-threateningly injured. When I tried to lean on the car to step out, he only glanced at me hastily, saying a perfunctory, "It's good you're okay. then did not leave Valerie's side for a single step. "Julian, I feel uncomfortable. I want to go to the hospital for a checkup." Valerie nestled into his arms, completely unlike her usual strong demeanor, suddenly becoming weak and in need of protection. Julian, flustered and tense, comforted her. "Valerie, don't worry, I'll take you to the hospital right away." Immediately after, he frantically contacted a taxi and, of course, wanted to go with her to the hospital for examination. Throughout the entire process, he held Valerie's hand tightly, as if afraid she would disappear if he let go. I watched the scene and felt nauseous to my throat. The wedding procession behind us had also stopped. Relatives from both sides surrounded us, whispering and discussing what had just happened. I couldn't bear it anymore and spoke to Julian. "Julian, are you even human? Do you remember what day today is?" He seemed to pause for a moment, but his action of holding Valerie remained unchanged. "Serene, this is a matter of life and death. Don't make a fuss like this." I pointed to one of my relatives. "I'll have my cousin take her." But Valerie clutched his sleeve even tighter and shook her head vigorously. Julian looked down at her, then up at me and refused. "Serene, don't cause trouble anymore. I'll take Valerie to the hospital for a bit and then I'll be right back." Valerie stood next to him, saying nothing, but her eyes clearly flaunted and mocked me. I laughed. I actually laughed. At first, I felt choked with anger, but now, all of a sudden, I felt unusually relieved. "You'll take Valerie to the doctor and then come back." Julian dared to say those words to me, but at that very moment, I made my decision. "No, no need for you to come back anymore. That's right, I'm done serving you. Let that scum of a man be taken care of by that woman who acts like a man, but the other debts, I will collect them one by one." I picked up my phone and recorded the entire process of Julian putting Valerie into the taxi, then posted the short video into the joint chat group of both families' relatives. Because the Rolls-Royce was blocking the road, more and more people gathered around us. The murmurs and discussions grew increasingly intense. My best friend, Fiona, fearing I couldn't endure the shock, immediately rushed over to support me. I looked at her to reassure her, then let the relatives see the chat in the group and simply explained the current situation. Better to suffer once than prolong the pain. Since I discovered a scumbag on my wedding day, I don't need to endure it anymore. Cutting losses in time is what I must do. Several of my male cousins heard the story and their faces turned dark. Julian's relatives looked at each other, confused, unsure what to say. "Serene, what do you want to do? We all support you." With family backing, I felt even more at ease. My parents, upon hearing that Julian had abandoned the wedding midway, were so furious they were fuming. Over the phone, they cursed Julian without reservation. After much effort to calm my parents, I contacted the wedding car team, requesting that the damaged Rolls-Royce be towed for repair, and also demanded an invoice and a detailed list of compensation costs. I had said it. Debts must be settled fairly, not a single penny missing. Afterwards, I got into another car in the following procession. What needed to be done still needed to be done. The wedding banquet was paid for and non-refundable, and relatives and friends had already made the effort to come and congratulate us. I considered it my treat to everyone. During the banquet, Julian's parents tried to talk to me, but my parents firmly blocked them. "My dear daughter, don't be sad. Your parents are here. No one dares to bully you." I suppressed the indignation and humiliation I had felt along the way and couldn't help but feel my eyes redden slightly. Anyone who goes through something this terrible and says it doesn't hurt is lying. Julian's parents' faces were ashen, trying to explain to some relatives while constantly calling Julian. They were also furious, not knowing if they could reach Julian, but kept shouting into the phone as if venting their anger. Unexpectedly, Julian, thick-skinned as ever, brought Valerie back. When he got out of the car, he was still wearing his groom's suit, looking disheveled, his collar askew. As soon as he met them, my parents held him back and gave him a severe scolding. Yet he vented his anger on me, rushing towards me, and the first words he uttered were to interrogate me. "Serene, are you crazy? Why did you call off the wedding?" He growled at me, his face filled with displeasure and annoyance. He completely failed to realize where he had gone wrong, only wanting to blame me. I had long lost any affection for him and coldly replied, "Sorry, from now on you have nothing to do with me. I find you bad luck, stay away from me." Julian froze. More importantly, my parents and several relatives blocked him, preventing him from coming near me. He didn't dare to act rashly either. Valerie also came back with him. Just a moment ago, she looked as weak as if she were at death's door. Now, suddenly, as if by some medical miracle, she sprang forward in front of me with a bitter and sarcastic tone. "Serene, you're quite something, all over such a trivial matter. Have you ever truly cared for Julian? Didn't you just imagine that Julian and I had something, and that's why you're being unreasonably jealous? Sorry, but we've known each other for almost 20 years, we're just close friends. To put it bluntly, if there was really anything, today I would be the one marrying Julian, not you. It's a pity. Julian once praised you as generous and understanding. I never expected you were just another common woman who only knows how to play jealousy games." Hearing those words, I was so angry I burst out laughing. Destroying a wedding that someone had long looked forward to and calling it a trivial matter. Using the guise of friendship to do such disgusting things, and then having the audacity to lecture me. Calling her that woman who acts like a man was indeed not wrong at all. Julian, standing next to her, still refused to let me off the hook. He said I unilaterally canceled the wedding, causing him immense embarrassment. "Serene, today you absolutely must give me an explanation." "Explanation?" I immediately flared up. Turning around, I pulled out several car repair invoices and threw them directly at the couple. The strong wind scattered the invoices, and they landed precisely on both their faces. The repair cost for the Rolls-Royce wedding car is a total of 800,000 yuan. Both of you, explain yourselves properly. Julian was forcibly dragged away by his family, mainly because they didn't want to lose face any further. In the short video I had recorded, Julian hugged Valerie like a clinging toad, a sight that anyone would conclude the two of them were having an affair. Valerie was even more pathetic. Already slightly limping, she was now surrounded and scolded by my entire family. She was scolded so much her face kept turning green then white, her head bowed low, not daring to look up at anyone. If she weren't a woman, my brothers might have given her a good beating. Finally, she was spit on and ran away under everyone's judgmental eyes. But Valerie clearly harbored resentment against me. That evening, she went on her social media page and specifically called me out, making false accusations and fabricating untruths. In several joint chat groups, she also incessantly spewed venomous words to humiliate me. I kindly drove for them, and in the end, I'm forced to pay compensation. She must be crazy. Fabricating lies to frame the brotherly bond between Julian and me, her brain must be in the wrong place. Such a small heart, like a pinhole, and that scowling face, who is it for? A torrent of vulgar language poured out like a waterfall, all curses that should have been strictly censored. It was hard to believe such foul words could come from a girl's mouth. Valerie didn't stop there. She even took a picture of the invoice and posted it in the joint chat group to shame me. The number 800,000 yuan was clearly displayed for all to see, shocking many in the group. They all unanimously thought I was overreacting. Valerie seized this rare opportunity to play the role of a pathetic victim, constantly whining that she was still a student and completely unable to afford such a large sum of money. Immediately, voices of severe criticism against me appeared in the group. Even if Valerie made a mistake, friends just need to apologize to each other and it's over. Is there really a need to go this far? Another person spoke even louder. My family owns an auto repair shop. If a car is just slightly scratched and you demand that much compensation, it's nothing short of fraud. By the time I saw these messages, the chat group had erupted into chaos like a boiling pot of porridge. Countless people tagged me, demanding that I apologize to Valerie immediately. I sneered, then quickly sent a similar invoice, identical to the one Valerie had posted earlier. The only difference was that my invoice was much more complete and detailed. It clearly listed the cost of tailoring the wedding dress, the order for the luxurious wedding cars, along with a detailed report from a professional team of experts itemizing the repair costs for the expensive Rolls-Royce. The people who had just been furiously criticizing me fell silent. The guy who had just boasted about his family owning an auto repair shop immediately knelt and pleaded, "Oh my God, if the car was damaged like that, this compensation price is still too little." He abruptly turned his attitude towards Valerie and cursed her severely. "You dared to touch this car, where's your brain?" Others in the group also began to suspect Valerie's deceptive actions, suspecting she was treating them like fools to easily manipulate them. Valerie remained silent, not uttering a word. I guessed she was pretending to be stupid to divert public attention. The girlfriend of the garage owner messaged me privately. "Sister, I've disliked Valerie for a long time. She's always trying to get close to the boyfriends of people in the group. She's absolutely unbearable." She was the group leader. Previously, Valerie had approached her, asking her to kick me out of the group. I curiously asked, "So, how is she now?" "I've banned her from speaking. I'm waiting for her to get publicly shamed, then I'll kick her out." The girl's voice was full of schadenfreude, echoing with laughter. She had been mocked by Valerie many times. Now that karma had arrived, she couldn't be happier. In the group, Julian finally spoke up to mediate. "Valerie has a straightforward personality. She definitely didn't mean it." Then he messaged me privately, telling me to retract everything I had said in the group. "Don't make Valerie lose face, just take it all out on me. You're just jealous and want to get my attention, aren't you? I know you still have feelings for me. Don't make such a fuss. Can we talk things through properly?" I stared blankly at the bright sun outside the window. It wasn't even dark yet, and he was already dreaming and talking nonsense. Did Julian really think I still harbored feelings for him? It was truly sickening. I sent the invoice back to him with a sarcastic question. "So worried about her? Why don't you pay for her?" Julian was completely speechless. I gave a cold laugh and returned to tag Valerie in the main chat group, reiterating the demand for payment within half a month. Not caring about what was happening in the group, I focused on handling the remaining tasks after the canceled wedding. A moment later, I checked my phone and found that Valerie had already left the group on her own. Oh, so she couldn't stand it and ran away before she could even be kicked out. 2 days passed peacefully. Valerie made no moves. She probably thought I was just bluffing, but I decided to follow through. Handing everything over to a professional lawyer, I packed my suitcase and headed for a beach resort. Bright golden sunshine, soft white sand, azure waves lapping, six-pack surf instructors. When I returned to the city, relaxed, Valerie, with a furious expression, was blocking my way to work. "Serene, you dared to sue me?" As soon as she saw me, she started shouting and cursing like a neighborhood loudspeaker. It seemed she had received the letter from the lawyer. I kindly asked back, "Have you prepared the 800,000 yuan?" "What the hell is 800,000 yuan? I don't admit to that." Valerie maintained her arrogant and disdainful expression, sneering, "You're extorting me. I've checked the law. If it exceeds 30,000 yuan, I can sue you back." If she couldn't even distinguish between a legitimate debt claim and extortion, she was truly legally blind. Seeing that I remained silent, Valerie thought she had found my weakness and laughed more triumphantly. "Serene, if Julian knew you had such a malicious heart, do you think he'd still want to be with you?" I didn't understand why she dragged that unlucky name into it. The very next moment, Valerie suddenly raised her right hand and slapped herself hard across the face. The force was so strong that half her face swelled red like a steamed bun. I was still utterly astonished when I heard a rapid succession of footsteps. "Serene, what did you do to Valerie?" Julian immediately shielded Valerie behind his back, his face filled with worry. His eyes glanced at Valerie's swollen red cheek, a flicker of pain and heartache passing through them. "Oh, it's just a slap. As long as Serene feels better, this blow is worth it." Valerie tried to put on a brave face, but her mouth continuously cried out, "Ouch, ouch," in pain, making anyone who heard her feel sorry for her. Indeed, it was exactly as I had expected. Julian immediately glared at me with icy cold eyes. "Serene, if you have the guts, take it out on me. We've already reached this point. Why are you still making things difficult for Valerie?" I was truly nauseated to my throat. I ignored the furious Julian and looked directly at Valerie, smiling and gesturing for her to look up. "See that big round black machine up there? Does it look like a surveillance camera?" When Valerie saw the black camera directly above her head, her face froze like a stone statue. My mood was incredibly calm. I shook my head and clucked my tongue. Our country is too safe. Under such a dense surveillance network, there's nowhere to hide. This cheap slander must have been caused by inhaling too much toxic gas. Valerie swayed, about to fall, her face full of panic. Yet Julian still didn't notice and loudly demanded justice for her. "Serene, how could you become so malicious and shameless? I truly misjudged you all this time." Julian looked at me with deep disappointment, even demanding that I apologize to Valerie. Apologize now, it's still not too late. He took out his phone, preparing to call the relevant department to investigate the camera, but before he could finish the call, Valerie let out a cry and fainted in Julian's arms. Julian immediately panicked, picked her up hurriedly, and rushed out as if flying. In the chaotic scene, I clearly saw Valerie's false eyelashes trembling wildly. So, she was faking unconsciousness. I gave a faint smile and turned to go to work. Such a person wasn't worth losing my attendance bonus over. Fortunately, heaven had eyes and took pity on me for having to encounter two such unlucky individuals so early in the morning. In less than 2 hours at work, I signed 2 contracts worth over 1,000,000 yuan. The following days were as if I were possessed by the god of wealth. Large and small contracts poured in, totaling nearly 10 million yuan. At the weekly Monday meeting, the general manager couldn't stop smiling, even hinting that he would consider promoting me to department head, making my colleagues green with envy. I grandly waved my hand, declaring, "This afternoon, milk tea is on me for everyone." The result was that the milk tea hadn't even arrived when the troublemakers came first. Julian and Valerie once again appeared before me. They stepped forward and threw down a thick stack of documents, demanding compensation for damages from me. Julian spoke up. "The wedding was cancelled by you, so the compensation for damages that should be there cannot be omitted." Valerie raised her eyebrows triumphantly, smiling radiantly as if spring had returned. How coincidental, the compensation they demanded was also 800,000 yuan. Regarding the cancellation of the marriage, my parents and Julian's family had already settled everything. When discussing the wedding, Julian had once subtly told me that they had just bought a new house, so they were a bit tight on money. I didn't pay much attention to it. My parents also didn't care about things like bride price. As long as Julian treated me well, that was enough. My parents paid for all the wedding banquet expenses. As for the diamond ring and expensive jewelry set, I had returned them all to Julian's family on the second day after the cancellation. Every expense was meticulously checked. My father even hired a lawyer to notarize the certificate. After everything was settled, Julian's parents were so embarrassed that they apologized to my family, saying it was because they hadn't raised their son properly, which led to me suffering such injustice. But now I opened the so-called debt documents. Oh my God, Julian had actually written a 5,000-word short essay. In it, he described in great detail how my unilateral cancellation of the wedding had caused him deep, indelible trauma. This included, but was not limited to, causing him heartache, sleepless nights due to worry, and massive hair loss. During the day, his spirit was exhausted, and he frequently made mistakes at work, causing serious losses to the company. In total, he demanded 300,000 yuan for emotional damages, but this was still not the most unreasonable thing. "Julian, you even included your 500,000 yuan down payment for the house on my bill. Are you crazy with thirst for money?" Seeing this amount, I could only laugh in angry disbelief. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? As a result, Julian even argued vociferously. "Serene, just think about it. If it wasn't to marry you, why would I foolishly buy a new house? There's no reason for me to bear a loan of several million yuan. It's all your fault." However, that so-called new house was bought by Julian on his own initiative before the wedding, without any discussion with me whatsoever. Only when he was preparing to renovate the house did he reluctantly mention it vaguely. I truly couldn't help but admire his money-making brain. Valerie stood by, constantly echoing his words, even fabricating lies. She's a money grubber. In that brief moment, all the attention from my colleagues in the office rushed towards me like a crashing wave. I even clearly heard whispers and soft, meaningful remarks that stung my patience like needles. Instead of getting angry, I simply responded with a cold smile. Initially, I had hoped that this breakup would proceed smoothly, preserving some respect and dignity for both sides. I had wanted to end everything in a civilized and polite manner, but they deliberately sought me out at my company, causing a commotion and trying to destroy my reputation with baseless rumors and malicious gossip spreading like a virus. In that case, don't blame me for not being polite anymore. Don't blame me for not holding back any restraint. "Julian, if you want to bring up the past, fine, I'll indulge you," I declared in a firm and defiant voice. Immediately, I pulled out a detailed breakdown of every expense from the very first days we met. A meticulous and precise accounting down to the last penny. Throughout our half-year relationship, every time we dated, ate out, watched movies, bought tickets to amusement parks, and even paid for taxis, I always split the costs fairly. Julian always used the excuse that men weren't adept at sweet, romantic gestures, and therefore, he had never prepared any small surprises for me, never performed any act that showed special care. At most, there were a few scattered red envelopes with symbolic numbers for love, like 52 or 13.14. These were hollow and meaningless symbolic gifts. Conversely, on his birthday, I prepared a pair of designer sneakers worth over 10,000 yuan, a luxurious gift that demonstrated my sincerity. On White Day, he noticed a high-end watch and asked me to pay for it, a thoughtless and selfish act. On Kixi Festival, I even generously treated him to an all-you-can-eat Japanese buffet costing over 5,000 yuan per person, an expenditure beyond my financial means. All in all, the total amount I spent on Julian was dozens of times more than what he spent on me, a clear and unfair imbalance. That evening, as I compiled the list of expenses again, I scratched my head and swayed, trying to suppress the foolish tears that welled up, a belated pain and regret. How blind I had been then, not to recognize his true nature. Each time I presented a specific number, Julian's face became a little paler, as if each figure was a sharp knife slicing into his pride. By the end, his entire face was contorted like a spilled palette, revealing shame, embarrassment, and anger. The mocking gazes of everyone around him were like daggers piercing his face, a public and hard-to-accept humiliation. "But Serene, do you really have to be so calculative?" He glared at me viciously, as if wanting to devour me, an expression of hatred and powerlessness. "Of course, it's necessary." I pushed him away decisively and smiled, a confident and challenging smile. "Transfer via WeChat or Alipay. Only when the knife cuts into one's own flesh does one truly feel the pain. Only when exposed did he realize the consequences of his actions." "Serene, you are truly shameless. Spending money in a relationship is voluntary." Valerie scoffed, trying to defend Julian's actions. "You willingly spent money on Julian. Don't you feel ashamed?" she mocked, trying to hurt me with venomous words. Oh my God, what stinks? A male colleague from the Northeast, working in the office, couldn't bear it anymore. He slammed his hand on the table, stood up, and directly cursed. "A man who's been dating for half a year can't spend more than 1,000 yuan. Even a kept man would be ashamed of you." He stood up to defend me, showing his outrage at Julian's stingy actions. "Where do you get the nerve to complain with such a stingy personality? Where I'm from, you'd have been slapped already." Even animals know how to build nests to attract mates. This girl didn't ask for a bride price, and you can't even afford a house, and in the end, you're trying to build the bride's family? Are you even a man? He continued to criticize, exposing Julian's weakness and stinginess. "Bah, on behalf of all men, I'm kicking you out of our club." The tall, strong Northeastern man, full of vigor, his voice like a bell, spoke like a firing cannon. In the end, he said something that made Julian and Valerie's heads buzz, their entire bodies dizzy and disoriented. His words echoed in the space, directly attacking Julian's self-esteem and Valerie's brazenness. I even kindly translated, "He didn't mean to say you two are worse than animals. A double negative is an affirmation. You two are indeed worse than animals. Still daring to cause trouble? I'll shatter your faces." Everyone in the office had long been amused. Their gazes were all contemptuous and mocking, as if watching a clown dance, which made Julian's face turn livid with anger. Valerie was the type who only bullied the weak and feared the strong. She didn't dare confront the Northeastern man, so she poured dirty water on me. "With someone defending you like that, Serene, no wonder you wanted to cancel the wedding, so you've already found your next man, huh?" Valerie tried to slander me, but before she could finish her sentence, security guards rushed in and dragged her out of the office. The security, finally arriving, immediately pinned her to the ground and dragged her straight out by the arm. She was like a frog being flayed, writhing in hot oil. Julian shared the same fate. It seemed he hadn't expected me to do this. He stared at me, wide-eyed in disbelief. I crossed my arms over my chest, coldly watching the two of them. "Get out! This isn't over yet. I haven't even opened all the old ledgers." I printed dozens more copies of the expense list I had meticulously compiled, even thoughtfully writing down the entire process and story, then sent them via express mail within the city directly to Julian's company, ensuring that everyone from the chairman to the cleaning lady received a copy. I wanted to expose his true colors to all his colleagues and superiors. Not long after, I heard that Julian had been demoted and had his salary cut. The person who told me was Fiona. Her boyfriend worked at the same company as Julian and had the hottest insider information. Now Julian is infamous throughout the entire company. Everyone knows how stingy he is, even trying to charge his ex-wife for the house down payment for the wedding. Fiona on the other end of the phone laughed until she choked. She said that Julian usually pretended to be proper at the company, but now that his mask was off, colleagues despised his calculating and petty nature, and no one wanted to associate with him. His boss also felt that Julian had moral and ideological issues, fearing he would spoil the company atmosphere, so he directly transferred him to a resource-barren area. Now Julian was not only stained and disheveled, but also lacked the mind to work, constantly dazed, ruining projects in his hands several times, getting scolded every day, falling into a vicious cycle. I smiled, indescribably happy. It's true, give and take, never underestimate the speed at which rumors spread. After this, he won't have a place in the industry anymore. After talking about the scumbag's misfortune, Fiona asked me about the 800,000 yuan case. Has that mannish Valerie paid you back yet? Of course not. Valerie played dead, refusing to pay and blocked all contact with me, thinking she got away with it. But she's clearly dreaming. I've already contacted a lawyer and plan to pursue legal action. I wouldn't mind putting her in jail. However, while the lawsuit was still in progress, Valerie had already, by her own doing, landed herself in jail. She posted a photo of me almost being exposed during the wedding procession online, adding sensational captions to attract views. Hot photo, deleted in seconds. Bride dressed daringly on wedding day. The incident exploded rapidly. By the time I found out, the photo had been wildly circulated across various chat groups, and I saw my own hot photo firsthand. It was a photo meticulously edited with Photoshop, with a portion blurred. Immediately after, all my personal information, such as my phone number and WeChat, was leaked. Every day I received countless harassing calls and messages from strangers. Hotel 20, 300 a night, are you going? You look so pure, who knew you were so debauched inside? Let's play a thrilling 3-person game. Little girl, are you lonely again? Let me pamper you nicely. Out on the street, people pointed and whispered. They believed I was promiscuous, morally condemning me. This kind of girl can't be married, she'll be cheated on sooner or later. Probably had tons of abortions, dirty, deserves to go to hell. Even elementary school classmates I hadn't contacted in a long time messaged me, curious for gossip. Serene, so you really do work in the service industry? Some people even deliberately investigated my home address. My parents couldn't even go out to buy groceries without being talked about. Our peaceful life was completely shattered. I became the main character in the hot photo leak incident, labeled as a promiscuous woman. As soon as I opened my eyes, a barrage of insults assaulted me. It was truly laughable. Did they think this would break me? I immediately took leave from work, preparing for a long battle. My boss was a mature woman, 10 years older than me. When she learned I was being slandered and harassed, she immediately decided, take a long leave, come back after you've handled everything. Tell me if you need any help. Rumors flew everywhere, but not everyone harbored malice. After the incident, my parents always encouraged and comforted me. Serene, you don't need to feel ashamed or worried at all. You are the victim, you did nothing wrong. Our familiar neighborhood aunties were also outraged and stood up to defend me. Serene is a child we watched grow up. She's so well behaved, she's definitely not like what they're saying online. Everyone unanimously condemned the heartless, conscienceless person who spread the rumors. My close friends also cared about me, especially the group of friends and relatives who attended the wedding procession that day. They formed a separate chat group. Everyone meticulously analyzed the situation, determined to find the traitor. Among them, a friend who was an architect was particularly brilliant. He directly built a 3D spatial model. From each person's standing position and camera angle, he calculated the direction and location of the hidden photographer step step-by-step to identify the person. The result was not difficult to guess. Therefore, when I reported to the police all the evidence I had painstakingly collected, and then witnessed Valerie, the one who had slandered and harmed me, being escorted to the station by the police with a pale, utterly panicked face, honestly, I wasn't surprised at all. The moment the police officers handcuffed her, Valerie seemed to completely freeze, losing all reaction. She was still wearing a thin nightgown, her hair messy and disheveled, and there was even some eye discharge in the corners of her eyes, indicating she hadn't slept well last night. When asked if she had fabricated stories, slandered, or defamed others, Valerie's eyes flashed, trying to hide her panic, feigning innocence as she blurted out, I didn't know anything, officers." She was lying. She and I have a personal grudge, that's why she deliberately slandered and harmed me. She didn't hesitate to point directly at me, trying to act as if she were the victim being falsely accused and framed. Unfortunately, in the face of obvious truth, all disguises and tricks became meaningless, no different from a paper tiger easily exposed. I calmly and confidently presented irrefutable evidence. After a diligent search, I finally tracked down the important clue, finding the first chat group that disseminated those fake private photos. Since there were no specific screenshots as direct evidence, I had to patiently review each account among the group's more than 200 members. After much effort, I finally found an account with many suspicious points. Cross-referencing carefully, I discovered that the profile picture of that account was a blurry side profile of Valerie. Furthermore, I also brought up the 800,000 yuan debt she still owed me, the money used to repair the damaged Rolls-Royce caused by her. To preserve the beautiful moments of the important day, the wedding car procession that day had a videographer following along. And in the recorded video, one could clearly see Valerie driving carelessly, causing an accident, crashing straight into a flower bed by the roadside, severely damaging the Rolls-Royce. The car repair costs, messages exchanged with the wedding car rental company, every piece of evidence, every event was logically arranged, without loopholes, enough to completely sink Valerie. Witnessing the dense pile of evidence stacked on the table, the police officers were speechless, sighing with exasperation. You owe someone a large sum of money, and you still slander and spread dirty rumors to harm them. No, I didn't do it. None of this was caused by me. Valerie was utterly panicked, her eyes darting across the room as if looking for an escape route while she tried to deny the crime. I just accidentally sent the wrong photo, and I immediately retracted it. This has absolutely nothing to do with me. Accidentally? So did you later clarify or explain anything? I coldly questioned, my sharp gaze fixed on her face. Valerie stammered for a long time, unable to utter a single word. The police officers couldn't bear it anymore and sternly warned, if you continue to be stubborn and uncooperative with the investigation, we will apply punitive measures immediately. Valerie was terrified, frantically calling for help. Not long after, Julian rushed to the police station. As soon as he saw me, his face darkened and he cursed without any restraint. "Serene, are you crazy? You've already ruined me terribly, now why are you targeting Valerie? Don't think I wouldn't hit a woman." "What are you doing? This is a police station." Seeing Julian raise his hand to hit me, a police officer immediately shouted loudly, warning him. Julian reluctantly lowered his hand, but his mouth kept spewing harsh and unpleasant words. "Valerie said it was just an accident. You're both women, why are you so petty and calculating?" At this moment, I noticed that after not seeing him for a few days, Julian looked haggard and disheveled. He was still wearing his familiar suit, but his cuffs were stained. His jacket was wrinkled, and his white shirt was buttoned incorrectly, looking crooked and utterly ridiculous. Witnessing this scene, my mood couldn't have been happier. An enemy's suffering was the best tonic for my joy. Immediately after, the police officers began a detailed investigation of Valerie. Despite her attempts to conceal and deny everything to the end, the authorities eventually found traces of her spreading false rumors on her phone. Valerie fabricating untrue stories to damage my reputation became as clear as day, undeniable. The police announced, based on Article 246 of the Criminal Law of the People's Republic of China, whoever uses violence or other methods to publicly humiliate others, or fabricates facts to slander others, if the circumstances are serious, shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, criminal detention, or public surveillance, or deprived of political rights. As for the 800,000 yuan debt, it falls within the civil scope and generally will not be pursued criminally. However, if one intentionally fails to carry out a court judgment, it can constitute a crime. According to Article 313 of the Criminal Law of the People's Republic of China, the crime of refusing to execute judgments and rulings, if one has the ability to execute but intentionally refuses to do so, and the circumstances are serious, shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years, criminal detention, or a fine. If the circumstances are especially serious, the sentence shall be fixed-term imprisonment of not less than 3 years but not more than 7 years, in addition to a fine. Upon hearing these words, Valerie's face turned ashen, completely drained of blood, looking like a chicken about to be slaughtered, her whole body trembling uncontrollably. Witnessing that scene, I felt immensely satisfied and immediately informed the police that the civil lawsuit related to this debt was already being handled according to legal procedures. The police nodded, then led Valerie away. "Serene, it's all because of a bitch like you. You're the one who ruined me like this." Valerie suddenly went mad, thrashing and lunging towards me, her eyes wide, her face veins bulging. But before she could even touch my clothes, she was pinned to the ground by the police officers. "Behave!" At this point, Valerie finally seemed to realize the magnitude of the trouble she had caused. She began to pant, tears streaming down her face, and finally knelt on the ground, begging for my forgiveness. "I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I'm sorry, Serene. Please be generous and forgive me. At that time, I was just too angry to act that way. I didn't really mean to harm you. I'm still a student studying abroad. If I have a criminal record, my life is over. You're destroying a girl's future. Don't you feel any remorse?" Valerie wailed miserably, looking utterly pathetic and pitiful, but I just found it amusing. "You should say those words to yourself instead." On the happiest day of my life, my dress was ripped, my body exposed. I was clearly the victim, yet I was slandered with fabricated stories, harassed, and defamed. If this happened to any woman, it would be a fatal blow. If I wasn't strong enough to overcome it, who would apologize for my ruined future? Valerie was taken into criminal detention for investigation, but things didn't end there. After leaving the police station, I started contacting my lawyer, preparing to officially sue Valerie, completely unaware that I was being tailed by a bothersome leech. As I stood waiting for a car, Julian strode purposefully and blocked my way. Facing his suddenly sentimental gaze, my heart skipped a beat. I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, the next second, Julian slapped himself hard across the face again. "Honey, I was wrong. I've thought about it thoroughly. All the mistakes were due to my foolishness, blindly trusting others. In my heart, there has only ever been you. It was all that bitch Valerie who caused it. She's the one who drove us apart. Wife, just hit me, scold me. As long as you forgive me, I'll do anything you ask." Julian feigned pain and regret, shedding tears as if he genuinely repented, but it seemed he had forgotten the angry, resentful, and utterly unpleasant expression he wore when he saw me at the police station not long ago. "Julian," I softly called his name. Julian immediately looked up, his eyes full of hope. The left cheek he had just slapped himself showed no redness whatsoever. How disgusting. After confirming that this location was in a blind spot for surveillance cameras, I smiled, slowly raised my hand, and delivered a powerful slap directly to his right cheek. Smack! The crisp sound of the slap echoed through the space. Listen carefully. This is what a real slap sounds like. I never saw Valerie and Julian again after that. It was only when the verdict was announced that I heard from my lawyer about their dog-eat-dog story. The 800,000 yuan debt, plus compensation for slander and defamation, totaled 1 million yuan, which Valerie was completely unable to pay. From prison, she tried every way to contact Julian, hoping he would help her pay the debt. But Julian was no fool and flatly refused. As a result, she took revenge on him with a devastating blow. She exposed Julian's embezzlement of 600,000 yuan from public funds, a secret accidentally revealed by one of his good friends during a drunken night out. This time, he was truly finished. Julian was also thrown into jail. He was furious and immediately accused Valerie of driving without a license. Valerie did have a license, but it was issued abroad. However, according to domestic law, that type of license was not recognized at all. Therefore, Valerie driving the wedding car on the road that day was a violation of the law. That day's trial was truly spectacular. A pity you didn't have a chance to witness it. I smiled faintly. Ever since the police helped me publish a retraction for the false rumors, almost all the troubles around me gradually disappeared. I started a new life, looking towards a brighter future. Victims do not deserve to be judged. Those who commit crimes are forever unworthy of forgiveness, and I will always look forward to a beautiful tomorrow and a promising future. Music.